Hello, Bryan.
How you doing? What's happening, champion?
Not much. Doing very well here in sunny Florida. How about yourself?
I'm Africa. My family has not thrown me out of the house yet, so we're doing okay.
Surviving the quarantine. Good. Fantastic.
Yeah,
Bryan, really excited.
Huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just one quick favor. I'm gonna just.
Oh, we've had a bit of a malfunction.
I'm just in another room in the house, and because I get pushed to the furthest corner, the Wi-Fi does not always reach here. So it's just logged off. But all good. Happy days.
Yeah, brilliant. Bryan, obviously really excited to have you, on the live today and on behalf of the team ASM, really excited to be working with you and moving forward, with you as an ambassador. How did this partnership sort of come about? I haven't really been kept in the loop with all that. Was it through Ernie's team, a bit of Corby Sierra, both sort of ambassadors with us?
Yeah, so apparently I was sort of a good rugby player, had a bit of a history here in South Africa, and they sort of felt that there's a bit of an impact that I could have. No, so obviously having a chat to Brendan and the team, and obviously, the relationship I had with Corbs, and also knowing that South Africa has a huge, rugby specific market. Our young schoolboys are some of the best talent in the world. And again, having come back to South Africa in 2018 and also maybe knowing Ernie a little bit better than most people, just seeing the impact we could potentially have by giving young students in South Africa across different sporting codes the opportunity to first and foremost understand what the ASM platform is all about. And given that South Africa is a third world country, potentially also have the opportunity for them to make their way to the US, through scholarship programs. And I think, seeing the value in that, seeing, the opportunity that sport has given me in my lifetime, and, potentially offering that to, to young scholars here in South Africa across different sporting codes was definitely something, I love, I love being able to give back. I love being able to make a difference, and potentially giving, young scholars the opportunity to carve their way, not only from a sporting perspective, but from an education perspective, which I think is incredibly important, the offering that ASM actually put to the fore, and to be able to give them that, that ability, almost made it a no-brainer to join up forces and, again, sort of be a bit of a face of it here in South Africa, but also hopefully, help them along that journey. And again, maybe I can even make it out to the States one day.
Yeah, absolutely. No, awesome to have you on board, and it's something that, we talk with kids every day, out here in the US. You get to combine both. Maybe they're not top of the world at rugby yet, a few years to come, but, you get to combine the sport you love, not just rugby, but any sport, and studying. And for you, obviously, you achieved a lot in rugby, but did education kind of, at the tertiary level have to take a bit of a step back? Did you manage to do a bit of studying on the side?
So, I'm going to be brutally honest, and I think because I have a relationship with the ASM, I was extremely lazy when I got out of school. Obviously, rugby hadn't become as professional as it is now. So, I was playing junior provincial levels in Johannesburg in the Lions. I was actually at university on a rugby scholarship, Bart scholarship. I was studying a BSc IT degree back in 2001, sort of information technology, knowing sport was going to potentially be a thing, and also knowing that IT was going to play an important part in the future of the world. But I was out of school for the first time ever. Went into residence at university, and potentially found more joy in not studying and the party atmosphere that comes with being a tertiary student. And again, I looking back now, probably one of my biggest regrets in that, I had 3 or so years to actually finish my degree and didn't fully apply my mind, which I'm incredibly disappointed at. And I think looking back now, I was able to do a degree through the Toulouse Business School over in Toulouse in France in my last year, playing rugby for Toulon, and just learn sort of basic business elements, digital marketing, some basic accounting, basic law that, just helped me, make that transition a little bit easier. Are we going to drink? Are we going to drink for that, or are you just going to accept that your phone was on loudspeaker while I'm
it's
speaking?
the boss. He left it in his office.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, obviously, I think that was pretty important. The French Players Association, Proval, played an integral part in allowing us to do that. And with that, I think we, I definitely benefited from that experience, not only from understanding how important education is, but also knowing that, there's gone again.
Yeah.
Flavian, silent, do not disturb. But just understanding that important role that education has to play. And, like many professional athletes, male, female, young, old, whatever that might be, a sporting career is only that long. And, if you don't have some form of educational background to fall back on, getting into the real world and having something to potentially lean on makes that transition period especially a lot easier.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's a big point we bring up with parents and prospective, student athletes that are going to come over here. Rugby, sport in general, especially a sport like rugby, doesn't last forever for everyone. So having a nice, backup plan, a nice contingency plan in the form of a degree can always help. In terms of the US and rugby, Bryan, did rugby ever bring you to the US, or did you never get to play?
Yeah. Well, I did actually get to play. I got to play in the first ever sevens tournament in the US back in 2004 in Los Angeles. I only played 3 minutes though. I was a replacement on the bench. My first action was to kick off. I kicked the ball directly into touch. From the ensuing free kick, I got sent off for a high tackle, and that was my 3-minute stint over
That's your sevens career.
Well, not quite. I then made a comeback. It was 2004. I made a comeback in 2016 to try for the Olympic team, and got to play in Vegas. Left Vegas with quite a few grass burns on that 4G turf. Yeah. But obviously, we all know, and everyone's been talking about America in particular being the sleeping giant. I know, given the recent situation and what's happening over there, there's been some financial difficulties that the federation has gone through. We've seen some real big names get included into the MLR, and again, I haven't unfortunately been able to follow track of the level of competition, but it has been growing. Definitely, you had Buster, Matthew Buster Hall, who played at Toulon, who got to go play for Rooney. Ma Nonu was at the Legion. So was Joe Peterson, someone I got to play with at Western Province. So I think the game is growing. I think what we have seen specifically from the boom that is sevens and being included in the Olympics, I think those two avenues. We've seen the likes of a Carlin Isles, a Perry Baker become global superstars on the seven circuits. Yes, they're probably much quicker. Well, I'll say much, probably about 0.1 quicker than what I was in my heyday. But I think both the men's and the women's sevens in particular, being involved in that Olympic program has definitely become an attractive factor for many players in America. Given the fact that if they don't potentially make it at NFL, that dream of potentially going to the Olympics is a massive carrot to dangle in front of their faces. So, I think one would like to hope there's continual growth. Given the current standing of the federation over there, coming out of this pandemic, there'll be a lot of hard decisions to be made. But hopefully within that, the growth will continue. I think the MLR, if based on the model that the MLS has, that would be something really, really interesting to see in terms of development over the next few years. But unfortunately, never got to play in a rugby 15s league over there. But obviously also knowing how impactful rugby has been. I did something with Play Rugby USA in New York last year, and rugby definitely is something that has a massive influence, particularly in the universities. Yeah,
absolutely. So you never got a call from former teammate Basro or Nonu about dusting off the boots and getting back out?
Yeah, I'd unfortunately already hung up my boots, and obviously, I sort of raced against cheetahs and aeroplanes in my playing career. I've now resided to racing against tortoises. The dodgy-old knee was just a bit tough. So I think it would have been a great experience. I think for me, it was also weighing up, really at the end of my career, potentially moving my family overseas, for a 6 or 7 month stint, was probably not ideal. And even though I'd have loved the opportunity to potentially experience it, just weighing up all the options. And I think that's something, particularly with ASM, where it's not just about one approach. It's about looking at the holistic approach of an educational one, a post-career one, a sporting one. That becomes really important, because I think in rugby's potentially got a much smaller net than everyone else, but it's only the top 2-3% that actually could potentially make it and make a living out of rugby. And of that, 2-3%, maybe only 15 to 20% of that can actually potentially retire once their career is finished and not have to potentially financially worry about life after rugby. So we have seen the salaries in rugby increasing dramatically, over the course of the last, 20 odd years of the game being professional. What I first signed for Toulon and to what contracts are being now, it's constantly increasing. I think that's absolutely brilliant for the game. But it's also because it's not as global as a soccer or a golf or a tennis, where the fan base is just so much bigger. Things do become slightly challenging financially, especially with that the bottom 80% who can make it a living.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And do you think going back in the years, if that opportunity, if the infrastructure is maybe there to get you over to the US, do you think it's something you would have taken seriously, really looked into? Or maybe being an Englishman, maybe we'd have another World Cup if you'd actually come over to the US and maybe not play.
Yeah, you've actually unfortunately got to blame Frans Steyn and Donnie Rousseau for that tackle on Mark Waite, not quite me. But Fabian, it's difficult to say. I think obviously the game in America is still in its infancy in terms of growth professionally, and I think that would probably be a big challenge. I was fortunate enough to have played at such a high level for such a long period of time, and obviously. Financially, that makes a bit of a difference. So, it would have had to be worth my while on various different levels. Potentially get a green card, or maybe go on to get a passport. Might have been one of the carrots dangled in front of me. But given my career and where America and rugby in America was through most of it, probably not. Again, I had I was part of some fantastic teams looking back at my career, from the Bulls to the Stormers, Western Province to Toulon, and I was able to achieve quite a bit of success. And I think in that, I was pretty fortunate and lucky to play with some of the best players in the Northern and Southern Hemisphere. So no, I probably not. But who knows? I might come do some consulting of some sort, in the not too distant future.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And look, where it was US rugby, it was then, compared to now with the birth of the MLR, started with 7 teams. It's moving on to, I believe, 12 or 14. Is that kind of, that professional pathway? It's been around for years with the NBA, from college to NBA. It's been around for years with American football and the NFL. Do you think that, is that one of the big reasons you might believe in this pathway a little bit more now is, South Africans that maybe miss out on the unions back home, like a Western Province or a Cheetahs, they can now, use the US, use the college level as a stepping stone to get, fulfill their dream of being a professional player one day?
Yeah, without a doubt, Fabian. One looks at, the South African environment, and we've got so many rugby players coming through the schoolboy ranks, and a lot of them that potentially don't go on to make a South African schools or an SA under 19, and there's actually quite a few schoolboys now who are getting contracted to the Northern Hemisphere when they're in their second or last year of school, and that puts a lot of challenge on a youngster who potentially wants to make it, but is not quite at that level to get a professional contract through one of the unions or potentially overseas. And I think what the Pathway program with ASM gives them opportunity is, first and foremost, experience a very different lifestyle to the South African system, and give them a fantastic organization behind them, making sure that they can pass their SATs, making sure that it's a continual educational based environment that they're involved in, but also allow them opportunity to still fulfill that desire of playing professional sports. And yes, it's potentially only at university level or college level, but it's still a professional environment that they're pretty adept at. And I think, again, because there is just such a big basin of those that potentially can't make it into higher honors in South Africa or in the Northern Hemisphere, to then get an opportunity to further educate themselves in a tertiary perspective, but also continue that, that dream of hopefully maybe one day trying to make it. And there's actually quite a few South Africans that have gone on to play for, the United States and the Eagles. And, that is potentially something. Yes, the World Rugby regulations have changed from 3 years to 5 years now. But all of a sudden, if you're 18 and you're not getting a professional contract in South Africa, and, you can potentially go study in the US and 5 years later have the opportunity, if you're good enough to, make a national team. It's something that a lot of youngsters could potentially think about.
Yeah, exactly. And just sort of a few names that sort of come to mind. You've got a South African in pretty much every national team. TJ Stander is doing well in Ireland, and you've got a bunch that came over to the US. Nico Kruger, a couple of different names who have gone on to represent the nation and probably played against South Africa as well, which is probably cool for them. Bryan, we got, as you can imagine, all the younger guys that are going to come out into the US. We got a bunch of questions, so there's a couple I'm going to just ask you from the fans.
Fine, let's do it.
Matthew's asking, what was that first call like from the Springboks coach? Was it Jake White at the time? Was it?
Yeah, so it was back in 2004. I'd just come back from an under-21 World Cup where it had gone pretty well for me, and also I'd actually got an opportunity to potentially get headhunted to go play for the Brumbies over in Australia in Canberra. And I was sort of at a point in my career, I was still on a junior contract at the Golden Lions back then, and sort of came back and celebrated having my 21st, and my then coach Frans Ludiker had sort of come around with all the other guys, and I sort of told him about the situation. I wasn't quite sure where I was going, and sort of told him about the Brumbies opportunity. And he was like, oh, well, I mean, if you, I think you should go. If you don't make it there, then you can always come back. And, sort of as a 21-year-old youngster, I was like, okay, that doesn't really bode well for where we're going. We had quite a number of great players at the Lions. Then I sort of, I played a few games of Currie Cup, and I'll never forget, I was actually driving home from university, and my dad gave me a call, and he was like, listen, I've just got a call from SA Rugby, and you've been included in the home leg of the Tri Nations. And I was like, sort of looked at my watch. I was like, no, man, Dad, it's not April Fool's. What are you talking about? He goes, well, you're going to get a call. You're going to get a call in a bit. And literally got that call, got announced on the news, and my phone didn't stop ringing for the next 48 hours, just from everyone in and around South Africa that I knew and a friend. And it was incredible. I think I also, took that time in that, I think Jake White, was a very astute leader from a coaching perspective, and he saw something in me that I potentially didn't see. But the opportunity he gave me to be a part of that actual Tri Nations campaign, which South Africa went on to win, I was never going to play, but it just he brought me into that environment to first and foremost see what being a Springbok is all about. Learning from the likes of Osti Rand, Percy Montgomery, Brayton Forster, John Smith, being engulfed in that winning, successful environment, and wanting so much to be a part of it. I think when went back to the Lions, finished up a really good Currie Cup campaign that we unfortunately didn't get further into, but signed with the Bulls, and then got taken on a Grand Slam end of year tour where I didn't make the cut for the first game against Wales. We lost to Ireland, which set our Grand Slam hopes out the window, and then I got selected on the bench against England in 2004, and I think as a youngster, and even now, people ask me what was the most amazing, thing in my career. And I tell the story that being able to pull that jersey on for the first time and I wouldn't really call it pressure, but know the privilege and responsibility that you now had wearing it. But I think the way my career started out, scoring a try at the home of Rugby Twickenham against the then world champions, England, was just an absolutely fairy tale start, and one I look back now and I'm extremely grateful for, because it made me want to continue that journey for so much longer. I didn't just want to be a one-horse pony. I didn't just want to be around once in a while. I wanted to be there for 10, 15, 20, 50 test matches. I potentially wanted to be the first player of colour to play 100 test matches for my country. And I think that experience, given that Jake White brought me in, engulfed me in that environment, and made me fully understand the responsibility and privilege it was to be a Springbok. But then also in so doing, take that in and not want to let it disappear. That sort of formed the foundation for the rest of my career of, wanting to be seen as one of the best players that the game has ever seen, and not just, again, one or 2 years in, but, have a long career and do something that people can be proud of, and hopefully in doing that, potentially inspire a new generation of players in South Africa.
Yeah, awesome, brilliant. And we got a couple more. They're firing in now, Bryan, so hang tight. The World Cup, the World Cup being won for South Africa, how much did it mean to South Africa more than just on a rugby scale, this recent World Cup?
We won three. We've won three. Just clarify which one. Sorry, how many? So England won one? Sorry, I'm kidding. Sorry, Fabian.
No, you're good.
Just quickly on Harry Glover. I know Harry's busy. Who would win a straight run challenge? Harry Glover. I think it would probably be me. Who would win a direct one-on-one battle? Jonah Loma would probably sit me on my arse 11 times out of 10. Sorry, go back to the question. I think for South Africa, and I was there getting inspired in '95 when Francois Pienaar and his team lifted it up for the first time, and I was sitting there as a 12-year-old boy that had never played the game of rugby before, but just saw how this group of incredible men brought the country together. How Nelson Mandela would spend 27 years in jail. Understood the importance that sport and rugby in particular has to play, and I got inspired to take up the game. And a sort of message for all kids out there: my first ever game of rugby at King Edward's, the 7th school, was for the under 14 G side. So you don't need a maths degree to understand A to G. I was a little wee scrum off. It didn't quite start out the way I'd imagined, but I was now inspired just to play this game by this group of men that gave our country back so much. And 2007 was brilliant because you want to, as a professional athlete, be at the pinnacle of your sport, making a name for yourself and achieving greatness. And our teams were allowed to do that and come back. And again, after being inspired in '95 to then see the reverse side of that in 2007 and coming back to South Africa and seeing how it had brought people together. Yeah. And I was fortunate enough to have been in Japan for 6 weeks, and I sort of tell people that South Africa winning Rugby World Cup 2019, creating history by being the first ever team to have lost a game in the World Cup to go on to win it, the first ever team to win a rugby championship to go on to win the World Cup, was absolutely fantastic. The stories of Sia Khaleesi, who in 2007 was watching us win the World Cup in a shack bar environment because his grandmother couldn't afford a TV. Those stories are phenomenal, but I actually tell people that was just a cherry on the cake, but that the cake was probably the sweetest cake I've ever tasted. Seeing how the Japanese embraced the World Cup, their people learning national anthems of different countries, cleaning up after themselves in the stadium. It was just absolutely brilliant seeing that Japanese fairy tale. I was there for Hurricane Typhoon Hagibis, and we were in the hotel when we got tremors of an earthquake. And the following day, that Japan-Scotland game and the emotion and the atmosphere in the stadium took me back to being a little boy in Ellis Park back in 1995, and just seeing how rugby brought a country together. There was over almost 60 million people. That's almost half of Japan, watching that Japan-Scotland game. And I think that just goes to show the power that, that rugby and sports has. And again, that Sia Khaleesi story for me in particular, I've got to be a part of Sia's journey sort of from the beginning. And I got quite emotional in that week because, for me growing up, I got given great opportunities by my parents to try and make a success of my life. Someone like Sia, literally went to school because that's where his next meal was coming from. He'd go to bed hungry. And, you look at those real stories, those stories that actually make people want to do so much more with their lives. And I think for me, being there, being able to embrace Sia post the final, I got quite emotional a few times in that week, and especially after the final, and potentially shown that us rugby players can cry, but it was absolutely brilliant. But I think again the whole World Cup, what was offered to not only the rugby supporters out there, but the whole world in terms of what rugby can do was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, no, I mean it was quite a journey to South Africa, and obviously that in particular with Sia Khaleesi, it was a sort of a story, that reverberated around the rugby world. Bryan, I'd like to just say on behalf of Team ASM, it's been an absolute pleasure getting you on the live and obviously moving forward and working with you. I don't doubt your answer to the Run It Straight challenge. Yeah, you probably win that one. But, when you come over to Florida, we'll have a game of golf and we'll see what the result will be there.
Oh, no. Are you needing a caddy, Fabian? No, I absolutely love golf. I think, as a rugby player, you definitely get opportunities, to do different things in the course of the week. One of the things we loved was actually playing golf. I think it's also a discipline that teaches you a lot about, the mental side of yourself, when you hit a bad shot and trying to refocus, just getting into the rhythm. And we had a really strong group of, players that would, go play golf. And we, would have quite a few bets going around, and there'd be quite a few trophies that would be handed out, and I'd normally be the one for the longest day. But again, I think we absolutely love golf. I got to play a hole with Tiger Woods, Rory McIlroy, Jason Day, and Hideki Matsuyama last year. And I'm hoping Hideki's back is okay, because he sunk this monster birdie putt, and I jumped on him, not realizing that his body is potentially a lot more fragile than a tight head props body. But he handled my weight pretty well. But I'll definitely go for a round of golf. I probably need to buy about 4 dozen more golf balls than you, or anyone playing against me. But bucket list definitely got to be the Masters. I think that is something I would love to experience. Again, golf is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Hello, Liz Glover. Hope you're doing well. Sorry, I just see this quite. I've got another 5 minutes. I'm going to go through a few questions quickly.
Yeah, I got one for you, Bryan. How you doing? I'm Gavin. I do a lot of the rugby here with the guys. We've got a couple of mutual friends. I'm friends with Marcel van der Merwe. So my question to you is, on how much food does Marcel eat on a daily basis? Because he threatened to come over to my house and do dinner, but I'm worried that I don't have enough money to feed him.
Yeah, I would say if you're not in the top 10% of earners in your company, you're probably not going to be able to feed Marcel. Or if you don't have a farm that has about 600 cows available, you might struggle. You would, though, need some form of biltong or jerky, as you guys call it in America. Not quite sure. But Marcel was a good man. We've just seen the news that he is going to be going back to Pretoria after his 5-year stint over in Toulon. Guy who's obviously made his Springbok debut and one of the hard men. He gets. I wouldn't say he'd be able to scrum all on his own, but he could give a pack a good going just by himself.
Yeah, no, he's an impressive lad, a really cool guy. Speaks very highly of you, and he said to say hello. I was on the phone with him this morning, and he just said I mentioned your name, and I said I'd give you a quick shout and say hello.
Brilliant.
Awesome. Thanks, Bryan.
Cheers. Fabian, you want to go through quick? Sorry, I'm just trying to go through. Liz Glover. Mrs. Glover, I would love to carry your bag. Unfortunately, airlines aren't flying out of South Africa at the moment, so you're going to maybe have to get Mr. Glover or Harry. Harry's offered to do it. He's apparently really good. And going to the Olympics, that might be more of a thing.
Love it. Is Harry being a nose on the old comments?
No. Harry's mother is. The Glovers are an absolutely brilliant family that I enjoy lots of great times with. Obviously, their sporting genes are absolutely incredible. Harry, everyone talks about Sunnyville Williams and his offloading. Harry Glover is pretty spectacular on the 7 circuit at the moment, and he does some insane things. And obviously, I think what is great, and a lot of those guys, and Harry in particular, has gone and finished his studies while still playing sevens internationally, and a great example to a lot of youngsters out there in terms of how to try to balance that education and sporting avenues, because everyone thinks you can either do one or the other. But if you manage your time properly, and again, I'll be the first to say I was horrible at time management, but I honestly think from a time manager's perspective, it's going to take a lot of sacrifice and a lot of discipline, but that potentially sometimes gives you not only the edge over your opponents on the rugby field, but potentially over your mates as well in life. So trying to balance, that very fine line between, for me, I said it's always difficult to achieve balance because I wanted to be the best rugby player in the world as often as everything that went through my body was dedicated to doing that. But if I understood that I could sacrifice a little bit of time to achieve that, that I could have maybe got my degree when I was 21, and not have to stress about that coming towards the end of my career when I had a wife who was pregnant, a 3-year-old running around in the house, and a lot of other challenges that one.
Studying in French as well probably didn't help.
Was in a hurry. Oui, si tu veux faire... no, we actually did it in English, so yeah, I would never have been able to. Mon français, c'est pas terrible, mais on fait l'étude comme ça, c'est très difficile. Comme ça, je pense, il était pas possible. On peut faire le cours en français, mais s'il y a quelqu'un qui veut pas en français, je fais quelqu'un.
Très bien. Bryan.
Yeah, very good. But yeah, good. I think we can run through another quick 2 questions there. So I'm just going through, looking through some of these. I'm not too sure who's still on the line. Loftus Fast
misses you, Bryan.
Yeah, well, given the numbers at Loftus, I'm not quite sure who's actually missing me because there's not many. Do I know Brent Yowens? He went to Hilton and went to some big meal with a load of all Bok captains in 2015. And I was probably at the World Cup in 2015 playing for South Africa, so no, I unfortunately don't know who Brent is. I did get to play against... Did I get to play against... I actually never got to play against Hilton, so probably won't. Pierre Walton, how did you get into pro rugby? Oof, that's a difficult one. I think pro rugby and getting into any professional sport, has various different avenues. I think, hard work, dedication, sacrifice is one of them. Sometimes you need luck, you need someone to have spotted you, you need a coach to believe in you. Throughout my career, I can't say there was one coach who was better than the other because each and every coach supported me and selected me when when even at times I wasn't, potentially or should have been picked. And I think it's a difficult question to answer. And again, the difference between making it and not making it sometimes doesn't come down to your own ability, doesn't come down to your own sacrifice or dedication. It is sometimes luck. I'm not saying it's always luck. Gary Player said, the harder you work, the luckier you get. And I think that, that is a very fair point. But again, there's various different avenues of becoming successful. But I think, whether you become successful or not should never interfere or disrupt your work ethic and dedication. I think that is something that is incredibly important. Whether you're a professional athlete, whether you go into business, if you're dedicated, if you have incredible work ethic, you generally tend to become successful in life in whichever way. What is my take on Jake White taking over at the Bulls? I think it's pretty interesting. Obviously, this current time period is very difficult just in terms of knowing, how rugby and how sport in general is going to come out of the COVID-19 epidemic. Jake White's definitely shown some incredible results, not only from a coaching perspective, but with teams he's been involved in. Obviously, winning a World Cup on your, having that on your CV definitely says that you do know what you're doing. Jake is also very driven to achieving success, and I think he's got a Bulls team that will be mixed with some great experience. I see Dwayne Vermeulen's coming back. You got the likes of Marcel. You got the likes of Cornel Hendricks, Roscoe Speckman, who's been doing some absolutely incredible things there. Morris Dalport, what is my favorite chocolate at the moment? Morris, it's not those white things we used to buy in Australia. So Morris Dalport used to play with me at the Bulls. Morris was also an instigator. We were in Queenstown, and obviously one of the most beautiful places in the world. And Morris made me hire a cabriolet for a day. I think he still owes me money from that, by the way, Morris. You never paid your half for that cabriolet we rented in Queenstown. But so again, I think Jake will do pretty well.
Yeah,
I remember John Walton. I wasn't in primary school at Kip Spear, so I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure how old your dad is. I'm not 40 yet, so unless he is between 37 and 42, he wasn't at cares when, Morris, I didn't fall asleep. I bought you your Starbucks white marker that you also still owe me money for. Kevin Cook, fancy a race? If you're racing tortoises, I'm in, Kevin. I've already said earlier in the conversation, I'm not going to be doing anything bar racing. I mean, I'm beating my 5-year-old at the moment, so that still makes me feel good. Not quite sure about how people ask me, how would I go against Ches and Colby? I would absolutely not make it. How hard is it to leave rugby? Leaving any professional sport, I think, is one of the toughest decisions one has to make. I think for me, I'd achieved so much, and trying to weigh up, whether you actually continue and just plod along, or I don't think there's many players that actually leave the game on their own terms. There are not many Johnny Wilkinson who win the double of the top 14 and Heineken Champions Cup, or Richie McCaw winning 2 World Cups in a row and retiring there. So, obviously I was sort of gutted in my last year, purely by the fact that I was injured, didn't get selected. Had a bit of a fallout with the coach and didn't quite end how I thought it would. And again, you always have a bit of an idea about how it could potentially end. But mine was just a less than ideal way to go about it. But again, not everyone gets the opportunity to say goodbye to the game on their own terms. Sometimes it's injuries, sometimes you just don't get selected. Sometimes things just don't unfortunately work out for you. So like I said, my last year was not ideal. And again, I was trying to make that decision. Do you go to Japan? Do you go to the States just to give it one more go? But also having a young family and making the decision of, how much they've sacrificed for me to be able to live out my dream for such a long period of life. To now, weigh up, is it worthwhile taking them halfway across the world, not maybe seeing them for 6 months if you go to Japan? So, all good. Nick Lees, what was one of the main factors that took you from the Bulls to Western Province? I'm going to say it's the mountain. Pretoria doesn't have Table Mountain, so that, no, jokes aside. Nick, I was also at a point in my career when, I'd been in part of an absolutely brilliant Bulls team that had won, Super Rugby twice, and things were going pretty smooth sailing. I just wanted something different. I wanted to challenge myself in a different capacity, potentially have a bit more of a leadership role, and again, hopefully make a difference in a different way, share the knowledge and experience I got through my time at the Bulls. It was so we didn't win Super Rugby. We won a Currie Cup. We ended number 1 on the Super Rugby in 2012 and just couldn't go all the way. But brilliant time in my life. And I've moved back to Cape Town and not Pretoria, coming back from France. So there's got to be something good about this place. So I'll take 2 more. How can one go about getting a scholarship at ASM to play rugby aboard ACE Rugby or NFL? Is there an age limit? I'm sure you can answer that one. Can you, Fabian?
Yeah. When it comes to the age limit, we typically take on, athletes anywhere from 14 to 19. Obviously, we need to look into your rugby background, things like that. And if you want to come out for American football, hopefully you've played it before, because a lot of people think that they can transition straight into it.
Yeah. So we've seen Kristen Wade. So on that, so obviously I think a lot of people that just see the thing on the TV, and I think it's pretty easy. Obviously you got your attack and your defense units, and your squads are pretty big. But there's actually a lot of detail that goes into. I know I was having a chat to someone who's good friends with Christian Wade, and just the playbook that you have to. If you don't know the playbook, and you get one thing wrong, not even in a game, at training, you get cut immediately because it is just so intense.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. It's what you see on the TV is someone with a ball running and, breaking tackles like they would in rugby. But there's so many different, pieces to the puzzle that go into it to allow that guy to get that space and allow that guy to break through and obviously score a touchdown. So there's a lot of technical stuff that goes into it. And if you're looking to come over, the earlier you look into it, if you want to do an exchange program at high school, just get some experience doing it. But if you're coming in at 18, 19 and you're like, throw me in the deep end, you've got 10 less years experience. It's kind of the opposite when it comes to rugby. Americans don't really pick up a ball till 15, 16 years old, obviously. We grew up with it from 7, 8 years old. So that's why the coaches out here really love internationals, whether it's England, Ireland, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand. You've got that experience and they want you over in your team.
Cool, sounds very. That's very cool. But also, obviously, the ASM website. I know you guys, on this channel, there's quite a few avenues just to get more info. Obviously, South Africa, from a rugby, golf, athletics, there's quite a few young athletes that have gone over in different capacities, not just rugby. And I think where ASM are particularly good is looking at the vast array of where young children or young adolescents are in their professional career. Then you might not be a great rugby player, but you could potentially be extremely fast, and something like athletics could be a pulling factor. And I think that is something that needs to be taken into consideration.
Absolutely.
Cool. Last question. This someone has asked you. Sorry, where are we going? Ewan Jones has asked, "What is the best moment you experienced as a player?" You and I said it earlier, you probably weren't here, but getting my first test cap for South Africa was incredibly special. Being able to know that all the sacrifice and dedication and effort of going as a youngster, to then put in and be able to wear that jersey of the Springboks for the first time, run out to that field and score a try on debut, made that desire burn even brighter. And I think for me, having experienced that, I never wanted to let it go. I wanted to hold on to that for as long as possible. And I think I did a pretty decent job for most of it.
Too modest, Bryan, too modest.
All good.
Bryan, like I said, absolute pleasure having you on. Congratulations on an unbelievable career within rugby, and sort of congratulations on the birth of this partnership, with us here at ASM. We're very much looking forward to the years to come, working with you guys. You definitely have to come over to Florida, play a couple of rounds with us. Absolutely, we'd love that. But thanks again for your time so much, Bryan.
All the best. Cheers, Fabian. Have a good one.
Take care.
See you guys soon. Cheers, mate. Bye.
Bye.